We have a small dog, half Jack Russell and half Chihuahua, so commonly known as a Jackawawa, and his name is Digger, and he rules our lives and bullies us and is great fun.
We live near Scarborough by the seaside. We've been married for, just over 3 years. We're both ministers in the United Reformed Church, and I'm trans. I was born physically female and I've transitioned towards male, but I'm still somewhere in that journey. I use the term queer to describe my sexuality. Queer to me means that I don't particularly have boundaries or binaries in terms of who I love according to gender.
I identify as being bisexual when I'm married to Alex, who is somewhere on the scale in between. Feels a little odd, so I like the term queer as well. We met while we were training at Westminster College in Cambridge. I knew Alex was trans before any form of relationship started. In fact, we had a very intense friendship for the first few months. It's a difficult one. When do you tell people? If you don't want to have to tell them as the first thing you say. By the way, I met a new partner, and they're trans. But you equally don't want to come up with it 6 months down the line. We actually got married twice, once in a registry office, and we then went and had a religious service, but not in a church. We didn't want to put anyone in a difficult position of having to say no to us because they didn't want to marry a couple, one of whom was trans. The advantages of being married to a trans person. Essentially, I think Alex knows himself better than a lot of people know themselves. There's an age gap between us, but it's never noticeable at all, because a lot of the journeying and learning about myself that's taken me a decade to do, Alex has already done.
When I'm trying to explain how it felt growing up as trans, I often say that I felt like an alien when I was a child. I just didn't fit anywhere at all. As I got a bit older, I started really rebelling against things that were seen as female, so I cut the hair off all my Barbie dolls. The only time I was made to wear a dress was on a Sunday for church, and as soon as I got home, I'd take it off, put a tracksuit on, and often hide under the table for several hours because I just was so uncomfortable. It wasn't until I went to university and met trans people that I knew that there was a name for what I was feeling and that there was something that I could do about it. I've had some surgeries. I still have to regularly take hormones. I don't kind of believe that my transition is finished or that transition really has an end date. It's just a journey of constantly rediscovering who you are. Now that I've transitioned, I feel so much better. I'm so much less anxious. I used to have a stutter. Clearly I don't anymore. I feel confident and I feel able to live out my calling. I didn't really realise that anyone had a problem with who I was or that there was any sort of contradiction with faith or the Bible until I went to a church that it turns out was quite conservative. I was asked to leave, and that was the first time that I really felt actually that the church hated me. And then I found a church that was much more welcoming and that encouraged me to read the Bible for myself. And that was a ecumenical church, so including the United Reformed Church. I read a lot, I prayed a lot. I realised that scripture isn't actually as clear about God creating man and woman as some people would like to think, and that kind of supported my feeling that it was okay to be trans. And I've done a lot of theological study since then, and I'm absolutely convinced that there's nothing scriptural that anyone can say against trans identity. I
didn't find him being trans as being particularly a challenge to my faith. God made Alex exactly as Alex is, and I love Alex. So I have no issue with it whatsoever.
I've written a book about being trans, and I work with other trans people who are struggling to work out how to reconcile faith and transition or how to come out in church. I think those things are really important to start to bring trans people's lives into the open in the church. I do expect people to respect me, but I don't expect people to know what to do with me. Some people might never have met a trans person before, so I think some of us do have that role of helping people to understand who we are.
In terms of the future, I don't know what it's going to hold. 5 years ago, I would not have imagined I would be married to Alex, but I know that it will be fun and it will be exciting.
I guess I hope that one day I won't have to defend being trans. But I won't ever stop talking about it because it's part of who I am, and that won't change.
And you have promised we can get another Chihuahua?
Yeah, maybe. We're Alex and Joe, and we are living in love and faith.